Good day there everyone, and welcome to my channel. My name is Cliff. I'm a gem cutter from Australia, and in today's video of how to cut gemstones, I'll be faceting this zircon, which is an Australian zircon. It's a light champagne colour and it's got a bit of an oddball shape about it. It's quite irregular, and I'll be taking you through the entire process of what to do when you've got a piece of rough like this, and how to cut a gem from scratch without a diagram into some sort of free-form cut gem. So this piece of zircon was purchased from a fellow YouTuber. His name is Tim, and he has his own YouTube channel called Tim's Adventures, and you'll see him digging in his own sapphire mine looking for sapphires. So I'll drop in a link down below so you can check his channel out. So while I've given Tim a plug, I'll also give myself a plug, where I have my own online web store called GemQuest, where I sell a lot of my own cut gems, many of which have been seen on my own YouTube channel. So if you want to check that out, feel free to do so. I'll drop a link in the description area also. So when you start faceting a weird oddball shaped gem, you need to determine what section of the gem you want to start faceting. So have a good look at it and look for a section that has a little bit of depth. So this is the outline of the gem that I want to cut, and I'm going to flatten the top of the gem, which is the table, so I can attach a dopstick to it. So I'm using a 600 grit diamond topper lap, and I'm just going to flatten the surface of the gem. And as I mentioned earlier, it's going to be the table of the gem. Not only will it be a flat point and the table, but I'm creating a little bit of a rough surface for the glue to adhere to. So as you can see here in this close-up, I've flattened the gem and I've got a really good contact point for the dopstick to adhere to. So what I've done is roughly mark out with a Sharpie where the center of the gem is, and you can see that this gem has plenty of depth. So finding roughly where the center point is a good guide to glue your dopstick onto. So the dopstick has been centered onto the gem, and I've glued it onto the gem using a 2-part epoxy called DevCon, the 5-minute variety. So when gluing the gem onto the dopstick, you can position it any way you want to, as long as it's central. I've decided to position this gem with the longest side facing roughly the 96 index. I've decided to use my 96 index wheel, but if you don't have one and you've only got a 64 index wheel, then use that. It will work also, but there's just a few more options in terms of the amount of indexes and the amount of sides you can create on a 96 index wheel. So as you can see, I've got my index wheel set at index number 96, and as I said earlier on, I've chosen the longer side of the gem, which was roughly on that index. So I'll start cutting that one first. So the whole point of having the protractor set at 90 degrees is that we're going to determine what type of shape we're going to get out of this piece of rough. Now, it's not going to be a regular symmetrical shape, that's going to be for sure, because the gem is not going to lend itself to being a round or a square. If it's going to be a triangle, it's going to be quite an irregular shaped triangle. So I'm going to just lower the side of my gem, the flat side of my gem, and I'm going to create a girdle outline. So I've got it set at 96 index, and just lower gently and flatten that side. So for those people who are trying to learn how to cut an irregular shaped gem like I am, you're not likely to be starting on the same index as I have. It could be any old index. It could be index 41, index 22, index 19. It doesn't matter. But you'll start off with a designated side on your gem. And it's really important when you flatten off that side, write down what index you cut it at. So the first side of the gem has been cut, and I've used a 600 grit diamond topper lap, and it was on the 96 index. So next side of the gem I'm going to cut down the depth will be this side here. So I've raised the mast a little bit, I've got my index wheel so it's free spinning, and I'm just going to lay the surface of that side of the gem on the disc. So the index wheel is now locked in, and this side of the gem has become the 70 free index. So the next step is I'm just going to cut that girdle facet at the 70 free index. Now of course your gem will be a totally different index. Make sure you write down the numbers. So I'm going to be cutting the second side of my gem. So I'm just inspecting how deep I've cut that side down to, and what I'm going to do is lock in the index back on the 70 free index and just cut it down a little bit deeper. So in this close-up you'll see that I've cut the second side of the gem down to depth. So the next step is to cut the next side of the gem. So I'm going to work out what index that'll be at. So what I'm doing is really what I've done in the first two steps. I've got to find the index for the third side. So I've raised my mast and I'm just lightly placing the gem on top of the surface of my topper lap, and then I'll be able to find what index I'm at. So take your time and just free spin the index wheel, and you'll be able to work out where that side is sitting on the flat of your disc. So the third side of this gem is locked in at index 38. So the third side of the gem has now been cut, and I've written down that number, index 38. But now we want to get a little bit creative because we want to create an interesting shape, and that's going to be the most difficult thing. So I'm going to knock off a few corners, and once again I'm going to locate those corners that I want to facet. So I'll be writing those down using the same steps as before, dropping the gem lightly down onto the topper lap and finding out where each one of these corners are located. So I've cut in the corners and I've written down the indexes of those corners that I've cut in. Now it's really important that you do that. Keep track of all the index numbers. Now a big decision is coming up, and a lot of facetors, when they're faceting a freeform, will have to make this decision. Are you going to cut a pleasing shape, or are you simply going to cut a gem for carat weight? So all too often you see a lot of freeform gems that are simply cut for carat weight alone. And I can understand why gem cutters do this, particularly if they're commercial gem cutters, because they associate carat weight in terms of monetary value. So because I have no intention of becoming a commercial gem cutter and I'm not working on the clock, I place value in creativity rather than trying to cut a larger gem that is just sold for carat weight. So here we have all the numbers of the indexes that I've cut on the gem, and I'm making a few decisions in my mind already. I'm not happy with indexes 9 and 27. I think one should be removed, and 84 and index 60 needs to be cut down to depth more. So I've worked out the actual shape of the gem, and I've had to delete one of the indexes, which was actually on the tip of that point, which had the question mark. Now I want to start faceting the pavilion. It's going to be a step cut, and as you just saw in that previous scene, I've set my first angle at 46 degrees. Now that'll cut down to the girdle outline. The next step on the cut will be 44 degrees and then 42, which will form the culette. So it's a basic step cut, and I'm following the indexes that shaped out the girdle. So in this piece of footage you can see that I've cut the outline of the gem, and I've got the girdle indexes listed below. I actually had to delete one of the indexes, which was index number 27. I was just not happy with the shape, And I've gone ahead and started to cut in the pavilion facets at 46 degrees to a center point. Now you can see that I've cleaned up those facets a bit more. I've used an 800 grit lap and the gem is starting to take shape, and I'm quite happy with what's happening so far. As I mentioned before, I decided not to go ahead and cut index 27. If I would have, then this freeform gem would have been an 8-sided gem. Now once you get an 8-sided freeform gem or more, then you start to end up with a shape that looks like an out of shape round or an out of shape oval, and that's not what you want when you're cutting freeform gems, because then you're going to have a very ugly looking gem. So here you can see that I'm cutting in the next steps on the pavilion, which will be angles 44 degrees, and then I'll form in the culette at angle 42 degrees. Now one of the things you're going to find that when you're cutting a freeform gem is that the keel of the gem is not going to be level like in a emerald cut. That's just the nature of cutting these type of gems. Occasionally, depending on the design, it may be, but more often than not it will not be. It will usually slope. So I've cut the steps on the pavilion which were at the angles of 46, 44 and 42 degrees, and I'm just going to polish those steps. Now I shouldn't have to go too much in depth when it comes to polishing zircon. Zircon is literally one of the easiest gems on the planet to polish. It goes along with topaz. That's how easy it is to polish. You can polish it on lucite or perspex, tin laps, copper laps. You can probably polish it with toothpaste. That's how easy it is. I'm just using 50,000 grit tin. I haven't really even done a pre-polish because it's just that easy a gem to just cut and polish. So I'm ready to start faceting the crown, and I'm using my alignment blocks to complete the transfer. And you may not have these type of alignment blocks, but it doesn't matter because most likely you've got just a transfer jig. But I want you to hear me out on this piece of information, because when you're faceting a freeform gem and you do the transfer and you start faceting the crown, things may not seem like they are. Do not go ahead and start faceting the same indexes that you did with the pavilion, and I'll tell you why. So let me try to explain the mirror effect, and the easiest way to explain this is on a symmetrical gem. When we facet a symmetrical gem like a square, we might facet 4 sides, and they'll usually be 96, 48, 72 and 24 indexes. And those will be on the pavilion. Then we go to do the transfer and cut the crown. We're cutting the same 4 indexes. We assume we're cutting a 96 and a 48 and a 72 and a 24. But when we're cutting the 96 index, we have a mirror effect. In reality, the 96 index on the pavilion becomes index 48 on the crown. Although we do think we're still cutting index 96 because our index wheel tells us this. And that's true because this occurrence seems that way, but when you're cutting a asymmetrical gem where you have uneven sides, we have a different mirroring effect, and we've got to line up the facets as you see me doing now. So here we have the indexes on the crown, and the only 2 indexes that have remained the same are the 96 and 48. All the other indexes are totally different. So to find these index numbers, you're going to have to set the protractor at 90 degrees and lay down the girdle facet so it's flush onto your master lap. Write down the index number. So once you've worked out the new index numbers to facet the crown, you'll go around the crown and cut another set of step cuts. Now I'm going to just use angles such as 45 degrees to cut the first step, and then 35 degrees on the second step, and if I want to cut the third step, that'll be 25 degrees. Just make it simple. So I've only to cut 2 steps on the crown, and then I will cut the table and do the final polish. And of course we have the final reveal where I take all the glue off the gem and you get to see what the gem looks like on the rotator. So until next time everybody, take care of yourselves and I'll see you in the next video. It's bye for now.